Hi, so I'm back. I'm going to cover the cerebellum again, very briefly. So, the cerebellum, not a lobe of the brain. Cerebellum is Latin for little brain. It is located at the back of the brain stem. It occupies about 10 to 11% of the whole brain mass, but it holds approximately 50% of all the neurons. So the brain holds about 86 billion neurons. There are about 43 billion neurons in your cerebellum. It also operates below our conscious awareness, so it's kind of zing around in the background. And it provides accurate rate, rhythm, force, and accuracy of all our movements. It is a moderator of those things. It also moderates the smoothness and appropriateness of our thoughts and our emotions. And also, massively important part of its job, it acts as an error comparer. So it's a comparator of movement from what was intended compared to what actually happens. So it through learning, basically through learning what not to do, and then creating from a conscious learning pattern to a subconscious learning pattern where it becomes just a normal thing. So think about when you're learning a new skill or task. As a child, maybe it's peeling a potato, the action of peeling a potato, and how many times you don't sort of try and break the skin, and then you eventually learn how to move your wrist in such a manner that you no longer break the skin of the apple or the potato, and you get a nice long peel. That was a learning process. It started consciously thinking about it, and now I bet when you pick up your peeler, you don't even think about it. You just and you peel your potato. So there you go. So that I'm going to throw in at the end again. I'm going to come back to that at the end of this video because we're going to do some physical stuff today, and it's going to be about that. So what can go wrong, basically? What can go wrong with our proprioception? With our proprioception. Our cerebellum relies on our proprioception in order to function. And in a word, what can go wrong is nociception. Basically, nociception is the encoding and processing of harmful stimuli in the nervous system. There are free nerve endings called C fibers, and they are in your skin, in your joints, and in your internal organs. And they transmit info on noxious stimuli in response to tissue damage. All C fibers fire all the time. They just alter in their frequency of firing. So if you know anything about neurons and the firing of neurons and synapses and so on and so forth, when you give it attention, it fires harder. You bring it to threshold quicker when you are driving that stimuli. So the C fibers are brought to threshold by tissue damage, by an injury, and in most people with healthy nervous systems, you'll easily compensate for that and you'll overcome it and it'll be fine. And then sometimes it's not so fine and it kind of hangs around, and it can lead potentially to a whole other host of symptoms affecting multiple systems, either short, mid, or long term. So our injuries, even though our injury may heal and go away and we'll forget about it, sometimes the noxious stimuli, the C fibers, are still holding on to our limbic system. So basically any injury or impactful emotional event, i.e. any trauma that you've been through, physical or emotional, no matter how long ago, it impacts the nervous system, and it is recorded in your procedural memory for the process of learning and avoiding or advanced strategies for avoidance in the future. So that takes us back to the cerebellum. Of course, it's intricately involved in the cerebellum and that process of learning. The area of the brain that controls our emotions is called the limbic system. And there are direct neural pathways that link the limbic brain and the pathways that control the muscle tone and tension. So our emotional system in the brain, the limbic system, yep, direct neural pathways that link to our tone of our muscle and our tension. So your emotions affect the tone and the tension of your muscles. I don't think that's any great big surprise, but there you go. There's the neurological sort of pathway that proves it. Basically, when you are under threat, or when the brain perceives you under threat, that requires immediate action. There's no time for procrastination or thought about it. You need to act. The limbic system, it takes 1/500th of a second to review all past experiences and to select the one that most closely resembles the situation you're in now, and pick the program that had the highest possible value of survival. So how am I going to get through this most unscathed? 1/500th of a second. And that's your emotional system. So how much trauma that impacted on you is stored forever and always. Every time you stub your toe, that'll be stored forever and always in your emotional limbic system, and can always be pulled up for a response. Most injuries heal, as we know, and we forget, and we return to normal, or a compensated version of normal. But these injuries, they can linger and be activated by inflammation and muscle fatigue, because of your C fibers, your limbic system. It can all just fire off. And then you need to also consider inflammation is something very, very, very real, because it's the start of all disease. Every disease, as far as I know, begins with inflammation. So if you have a diet that is filled with neurotoxins, excitatory neurotoxins like aspartame, MSG, fluoride, your nervous system is having to try and figure out what to do with all those chemicals while still trying to cope with inflammation in your body, and we've all got that. It's a hell of a big ask. So your diet is absolutely impactful. If you have a lot of preservative in your diet and you have a lot of pain, you may want to try maybe a little bit of fasting, or definitely alter that diet to try and get rid of some of those excitatory chemicals that your nervous system just is running amok with. So in the AMN system, when we deal with people who have pain, we actually don't try and treat the pain. We try to stimulate the various pathways in order to let the body kind of deal with the pain on its own. So we are driving our neural pathways in other directions in order to have a positive effect on whatever noxious stimuli you're going through, whatever nociception is going on. So I'm just going to go back to nociception. It literally is going on all the time. As I said to you, it just depends on its frequency of firing. It will be brought to threshold by tissue damage, but it literally is going on like a little alarm clock, just waiting for somebody to trigger their alarm so that it has something to respond to. Okay, so if you can keep your nervous system in a calmer state and manage the inflammation, manage the diet better, manage the variety of movement better, that you are stimulating the cerebellum in a really healthy way, that's the way to go. So that brings me back to what I said earlier about our learning new skills, learning new patterns, and firing the neural pathways to the cerebellum in an interesting way. So remember, there is one message for every one sensory message that is going up to my brain, from my proprioception, from my nerve endings, from my experience around the world, my senses. There are 30 going back down. So I want to make the output really interesting, so that then the input is more interesting, and then I can fine-tune the output going out again. So our movements are going to be interesting, and in this little bit of movement I'm going to do with you guys, it's the AMN warm-up. We're firing all the different systems, especially the vestibular system, and that is something I will cover in the next video if you're all still listening. So hang in there with me, and we will get to the next part. So if we test our cerebellum, we've done this once before in our previous session. Just standing, feet together, arms straight out in front of you, shoulders down on your back. Close your eyes, and we're going to spin those arms from the shoulder, going as quickly as you can. Ooh. And just noticing, fingers together, if that feels even or what feels a little bit funky. I definitely have a slight wibble wobble going on in my left arm again. And that's telling me my left side of my cerebellum needs a little bit of help. So I'm going to keep that in mind when I do this little warm-up. So you're going to want to get yourself some space. I am going in the garden because I need to roll around. I'm going to go onto all fours. So keeping in mind that I showed up on the left, right? I need a little bit of help. I need to turn the volume up on the left. So I'm just doing a little rocking. Trying to keep the back nice and flat, let the bum stick out, little rebound. Maybe I'll even make it smaller and faster, just changing my rate, rhythm, force and accuracy a little bit. And then I'm going to come lie all the way down. Squeeze those legs together, find your hollow body. I'll start on my side, I think, since I'm on a decline. And just a barrel roll. And now I needed help on my left, so I am going to roll twice to my left. And then I'm going to roll once to my right, and I'm going to roll twice to my left, and just drive the system to the left. And then come back, once to the right, and I'm on my tummy. I may even have rolled out of screen. Hands out to the side. I'm going to look over my right shoulder, kick up that right leg, and then roll it back. I'm going to kick up my left leg, look over that left shoulder, and reach it back. So we've done this in class a couple of times. It's going to progress, guys. So if I needed to turn up the volume on the right, I would be doing this with my right leg. I needed it on the left. This is my left leg. As I come through, I'm going to stretch those arms and just roll to the left. Open the arms. I don't need to turn it up on the right, so I'm going to kick up, reach that leg back on the right, roll the hip down, kick up, reach the leg back on the left, and then roll to the left to drive my system in that direction. Then I'm going to come back onto my tummy, hands underneath those shoulders, feet apart, opening up that chest, drop the chest down for reverse curl, let the bum go first, and let it pull you back into your heels, come through the middle. So you see where I get all these from that I make you guys do in the Pilates classes. And through the middle. And I'm going to do it one more time. And then I'm going to come back to the center. I'm going to open my knees as wide as I can. And try and get my pelvis in line with my knees. And I'm going to do just a little rocking backwards and forwards. Flex your feet, get your feet out so you're lovely and square. And we're doing just a little rocking, sticking out your tush. And then we go to threading the needle. So I'm going to reach it through and come back up. And then go the other way, reaching it through and coming back up. Other way again, reaching it through. Sorry, just something popped up on my screen, and coming back up. And the other way, reaching it through and coming back up. So I needed help on the left. I'm going to do it 4 times on the left now. I'm just going to look to the left, come back, I'm going left, and coming back, and left, and up, and one more time. And then I'm going to come sit down on my bottom with those legs folded in our mermaid position. We're going to lie over the middle of your shin. Sitting up, you could either use the hands to roll the knees over, keep the feet where they are, go over the middle of the shin, and lift up, or you don't have to use the hands, that's up to you. Over the middle of the shin, up and over the middle of the shin, up and over, and down, and up, and again down, and up. Come back into the center. I'm going to bring those knees up, find my lovely dish position as I roll down onto the lower back, extend the legs and reach those arms out and hold. Now this in a perfect world would be hollow body rocking rather than just holding it, but holding it's pretty tough, pressing the back into the floor and scooping in those lower tummy muscles. So we'll add the rock here. The arms are just going to go back, the legs are going straight up into the air. So I'm going to lift up and lower forward, and roll back and lift up and reach forward, roll back and lift, roll forward and reach, roll back and lift, roll forward and reach. We'll do another 2, and then I'm going to be bending my left leg and straight right leg and swing the left arm back, so into a spiral. And reach, push up. And you might say, I can't do that. You know what? You do the best version you can. It's a warm-up. You just have a little play, and you might surprise yourself. And then if you want to have a little challenge at the end, you can maybe do both feet and stand up. Right, I am just going to check my cerebellum again. Out of a little bit of work, kind of driving to that side, feet together, eyes closed, flipping those arms. Oh, my rhythm is still slightly off, but certainly not as vicious as it was earlier. At least that's how it feels to me, and it feels like it's firing a little bit better. So have a go at that if you like, and our next session, the next little video one, will be on the vestibular system, which is something that is one of our cerebellar inputs and hugely impactful over our whole system. So that's our balance. Look forward to seeing you again.